First off, thank you very much, John, and thank you to Fox Business for hosting this forum. I was born in Independence, Missouri. I was raised on a horse farm in Peculiar, just a short drive from a town called Liberty. Coincidence? I'll let you guys be the judge. I learned about economic liberty when my parents sent me out into the fields to plant chrysanthemums and sell them to the people of my small town. I learned about personal liberty from those who taught me about the Golden Rule. I believe that people are inherently good and that they can be trusted with freedom, and that freedom should be as expansive as possible. The role of government is to protect our liberty, not our security. That's what the Second Amendment is for. I'm the grassroots candidate with a real national campaign. I have an army of freedom ninjas at my back who have been volunteering for me and financing me the entire way. I'm the fiscally conservative candidate with $0 of campaign debt, and I've budgeted my funds in the same manner that I would govern. I am proving that you can do more with less. I may be the youngest candidate in this race, but I'm the oldest in Libertarian years. I'm the anti-establishment candidate in this anti-establishment party. I'm here to shake things up and inspire a generational liberty movement now and into the future. I believe that I am the only candidate on this stage who can inspire a coalition of libertarians, conservatives, reasonable Democrats, and independents to win. I'm pro-life, pro-constitution, and pro-freedom. My plan is to take over the government so I can leave everyone alone. Thank you. The revolution continues. Thank you, friends. The president does have the power of the veto.
Well, when is it right to go to war?
Only if the Congress declares war constitutionally is it right for the United States.
When should Congress?
If we have a significant threat, there are circumstances when the United States may go to war, but we should only do so through due process.
People say libertarians will cut the safety net, welfare programs to non-existence. So, how would you address the welfare state? Should it be replaced? How is it not effective? What should happen? Mr. Petersen.
I have a spending plan and a taxing plan that would cut across the board. This is called the penny plan. And what this would do, this would put us on the path to a balanced budget. Yes, I do think that we need to cut away some of these social safety nets, but we should not do it overnight. My penny plan cuts 1 penny from every federal dollar across the board. If Congress decides that one program is too important, such as Medicare or Medicaid, they could make an equal corresponding cut. It also includes a balanced budget amendment. We need to force Congress to live within their means. 18% of total GDP. If the American people have to balance their checkbook, so should Congress. Right now, the debt to GDP ratio is 105%. Let's force them to stay within the law. No more than 18% of GDP. Cut the budget across the board. Everybody takes a haircut. That's how we'll shrink government, and no one is going to be hurting.
These are nice thoughts, but what specifically would you cut? Agencies, for example.
The state is the great fiction through which everybody endeavors to live at the expense of everyone else. I would cut them all. They had no right to take it from us in the first place. The United States should not be in the business of charity. You are not charitable because you put a gun to someone else's head and you force them to be charitable. Charity is given from the heart. We need to get back to that. That's what made America great. We have removed the role of charity in society. Families, friends, neighbors, churches, community, society. Where is the love for one another? Government doesn't love us. That's what we need. We need to get back to a system where people can take care of one another. The Catholic Church would love to step in and do charity, but the government gets in the way. And Obamacare has destroyed our healthcare system. As president, I would demand that Congress send me legislation overturning the ACA on day one.
One thing Democrats, Republicans, and libertarians agree on is that it's government's job to protect us from foreign threats. It's here in the Constitution. What would you do about ISIS?
Well, I'll tell you, the first thing that I would do is I would obey the Constitution and respect the Fourth Amendment rights of American citizens. Now, we can fight ISIS. They have inspired attacks on our own homeland, such as in Garland, Texas, and they have attacked Brussels, and they have murdered terrorists in Paris. So they are a sincere threat. But if we obey the Constitution and we follow the advice of the founders and we listen to Congressman Ron Paul, there are thousands of grizzled veterans that are just aching for an opportunity to do their country a favor that would be more than happy to go over there and take care of these boys for us. I trust the Constitution. I trust Thomas Jefferson. I trust the founders. I believe that if we follow the law, that we can protect ourselves and secure our liberties at the same time.
You end all foreign aid.
I do not believe in foreign aid, and if I had the power to do so, I would cut every penny of foreign aid.
Austin Petersen, here's my problem with you. You're 12 years old. You're not old enough to be president.
I'm 35, so I'm constitutionally eligible. On July 4th, 1776, Thomas Jefferson was 33 years old. James Madison was 25 years old. The Marquis de Lafayette was 18, and Alexander Hamilton was 18. It was young men that founded this country, and young people will restore it. Young people will take our country back. So don't hate because I'm young and pretty. Because we will take our country back. It's the young people that are going to fight for it. Join my campaign.
Pro-government Republicans who are unhappy with Republican candidates may have a very clear reason to vote Libertarian. How would you sell yourself as the Libertarian nominee to disenfranchised Democrat voters?
Governor Johnson.
Disenfranchised Democrat voters, the website I side with. I think that everybody should get on that website, take the 36 questions, see who you pair up with. Now, I had issues with the site. I took the test a couple of weeks ago, and I sided with myself 90% of the time. I think they've fixed that. But amazingly, the next person that I sided with was Bernie Sanders at 73%. So the initial reaction was, you got to be kidding. Then the next reaction was, I get it. I get it on the civil liberties side, on the social side, on the military intervention side. You know what? This is a fit. I advocated for legalizing marijuana. I'm the highest official to do that. Although Bernie rolled out of bed, I guess hit his head. I'm glad that he's now advocating for the same. But there is a real connection there. There's a real connection.
You wanted to add something?
Well, I just want to say that, yes, Governor Johnson has stated that he does side with him on social issues, and we had a big kerfuffle in Oregon last week because Governor Johnson has stated that he believes that bakers should be forced to bake wedding cakes for people that they disagree with, homosexual couples. And this is a big problem because we're running for president as a libertarian.
Is he correct in quoting you?
Yes, but I think that if you discriminate on the basis of religion, I think that that is a black hole. Look, I think you should be able to discriminate for stink or you're not wearing shoes or whatever. But I'll tell you what, if we discriminate on the basis of religion, to me, that's doing harm to a big class of people. And right now,
should a Jewish baker be required to bake a Nazi wedding cake?
I think Muslims right now in this country... I think Muslims in this country would be banned by all sorts of businesses right now because it would be the popular thing to do.
So the Jewish baker should have to bake the cake for the Nazi wedding.
That would be my contention, yes. And the example...
This betrays a fundamental lack of understanding of the free market. You have to allow the marketplace to work. The government cannot stamp out bigotry. The government is not supposed to make us into better people. That's not what the United States was founded on. The United States was founded so that we could be whatever we wanted. Now, I hate bigotry, and I would stand outside these people's store, and I would encourage a boycott. I stand up for my friends for their gay rights, and everyone should be equal before the law. But let the bigots out themselves. Let's know who's going to do it. Who wants to eat a cake from someone
out of time,
who
Petersen, I get your point. Yourself, you made a point of saying you're pro-life. You would have government ban abortion?
The first thing that I would do is to try and find every non-coercive measure that we can to end abortion, and there are options. Ending the federal war on drugs would allow women to purchase birth control over the counter.
But would you have laws on abortion?
The president has no authority to enact laws on abortion. The Congress writes the law. But we should be morally pro-life. All humans deserve the same right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and we should find every opportunity we can to save lives.
Women are paid less than men. Should government be involved in fixing that?
The unfortunate truth is that the reason why there is this, quote, gender pay gap is because of women's choices. Women fall out of the workforce. They have children. They don't work as long hours. So when you look at the economic data side by side, the truth is that the gender pay gap closes. And now more women get more degrees, and 35 years and younger, those women are actually now making more because more women are going to college than men. So should government force more men to get into college? The government should stay out of it.
What would you do about illegal immigration? Petersen?
I think we can incentivize legal immigration, so that we can cut down on illegal immigration. If we make a simpler path to citizenship, then people will not break the law if they know that there's a chance that they can come here.
Simple path for the 11, 12 million illegals already here? Just let them...
Yeah, they're already here. They're already adding to our economy. So why don't we make it so that they can find a path to citizenship?
Because they lied to get in. It's an insult to the people who followed the rules.
If you were living in a third world country and your family was starving to death, who would not cross that wall? We have got to make it simple for them to come here because we have a policy of love towards immigrants. We're an immigrant nation. My last name is Petersen, spelled S-E-N. The Danish came over here through Ellis Island. We need to have a simple path to naturalization. Disease check, security check.
Libertarian-ish Republican Rand Paul said we got to worry about terrorism. We should put a hold on immigration from certain parts of the world. Do you agree? Disagree?
Can't enforce something like that. The First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution says that the government should stay out of religion. The government cannot set those kinds of standards or quotas. What are you going to do? You're going to ask them what their religion is when they come here? That's un-American. We've got to have a simpler path to naturalization for these people because they are coming here because they want to work. When immigrants come to the United States, they don't just take jobs, they give labor. They create wealth. That's how the free market economy works, and we should encourage that. Besides, if they wanted free welfare, they would go to Europe. It's the United States. Here in the United States is the land of opportunity. It still is. So we should welcome the people who want to come here.
Donald Trump says he supports free trade, but only fair free trade. He says our bad deals with other countries have cost Americans jobs. That leads to a question posted on Facebook from Joe Rafferty. How will free trade help the working class by way of employment, not just lower the price of goods?
But consumers benefit from lower prices. See, nobody's talking about the third party in this equation, which nobody's speaking up for, and that's the consumer. Right. When you're allowed to purchase things from overseas, you can buy things at a lower price. That lifts people out of poverty. The purchasing power. So if the Federal Reserve would stop destroying our dollars, we could buy even more.
Well, but you need to create jobs.
Liberty is the opposite of license. We have got to get rid of the occupational licensing in this country. Why do you need a license to braid hair? The government has got to get out of the way. The Institute for Justice has been stepping in for this. If the government would get out of the way, why do I need a certificate to cut hair? Ladies and gentlemen, this is ridiculous.
You all support the Second Amendment, individuals' right to own a gun, but some people with criminal records, some mentally ill people get guns, some commit terrible crimes. Should there be any limit?
Don't you think that King George would have declared the colonists to be mentally ill? It's the government that sets the standards. The government has no right to take away our form of our form of self-defense. It is an individual right to bear arms. We, the people, are the militia, and we should have every right to defend ourselves. I would overturn the National Firearms Act so fast your head would spin, because nobody should be forced to pay $200 to put a suppressor on the end of their AR-15. I built my first one last year, and I use it frequently for hunting. But the Second Amendment was not for hunting. The Second Amendment was to shoot at tyrants if the government becomes tyrannical.
What should the role of the federal government be when it comes to protecting the environment?
The EPA are a bunch of unelected bureaucrats with assault rifles.
You would abolish the EPA?
Well, the president does not have the authority to abolish anything. We have to work through Congress, and you have to obey the Constitution.
Would you ask Congress to?
I would ask Congress to do so, but if they would not do it, I would ask them to relegate the EPA to their original enforcement role. The EPA was not meant to go out and harass Oregonians and murder Oregonians. The problem with the EPA is that they are originally supposed to provide scientific evidence in cases where property rights were in dispute. If the EPA is to exist, that's all they should be doing, providing scientific expertise. You know, I always say I don't believe in gun control, but I do think that we need to control the government's uses of guns. We've got to disarm the feds.
What about global warming? All right, but they protect us from that?
Whether global warming is true or not, government should play no role. It's not the job of the government to protect us from these things. The government is actually the biggest polluter. Did you know? So let's get the government out of the business of polluting. And the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, is that there is a scientific consensus that states that there is a warming trend. But the truth is that there may actually be some benefits to the warming trend. Scientists are good at looking at the facts on the ground, but they're terrible at predictions. They're not Nostradamus, and we shouldn't be making those kinds of policy decisions and beating people over the head to solve a problem. China won't come to the table, by the way. They're a big polluter. India, they're greater polluters than the United States. So what is the federal government going to do to force China and India to come to the table? That's the question. Why do we have to crack down on the Americans? Why is it always we have to tax Americans? That's the problem, is that we are not even the biggest polluter, so it's hypocritical of the government to try and enact these legislation.
Here's my question for the libertarian geniuses. You see the damage that heroin is doing all over the United States. You see it because it's cheap. And the cartels in Mexico are smuggling it here with very, very little interference. Imagine if heroin and other hard drugs were legalized here and distributed here, how much damage would occur. So how can you support that?
To say that Bill O'Reilly's being a pinhead on this one. Sorry, Bill. You know, because drugs are illegal, that they are so dangerous. We saw this with Prohibition when they were making bathtub gin. If you knew what kind of dosages you were taking when it came to illegal drugs, you might know what the danger is. Drug dealers, thank you. Drug dealers don't check IDs. We've spent $1 trillion on a no-win war on drugs. One of Nixon's aides just came out recently and said that the war on drugs was meant to crack down on hippies and black people. It's ridiculous. We've got to stop this. This is where we get the violence on the border. If you guys want to have a more secure border, then you've got to end the war on drugs. We will be a safer, freer nation.
What would you do to protect the Constitution today in an era in which no one alive has consented to it, and the president regularly violates it, and the Congress treats it like a blank check?
Mr. Petersen.
Well, the question is, what did the founders mean when they meant they were leaving something to their posterity? The Constitution was a gift to us. They fought hard to restrict the power of government.
He's asking, how would you protect it?
Well, how would I protect it? By obeying it, by understanding it, by reading it, which I do every single day. The president has a responsibility to obey the law. The government is set between checks and balances, and we have to remind people that the president doesn't write the law. That's the Congress's job. So I would protect the Constitution by obeying it.
Closing statement time. Each candidate gets 45 seconds. We begin with Austin Peters.
My fellow Americans, you and I have a rendezvous with destiny. This year we must decide if we are going to nominate a candidate who represents the future of our movement, or if we are content with stagnation. Now, I might just seem like an energetic youth, but in 1 Timothy it says, "Don't let anyone look down on you because you're young, but set an example for believers in speech, conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity." I believe in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all individuals, regardless of age, race, faith, non-faith, or sexuality. We're all made of the same star stuff, people, and we're all endowed with the same individual rights. May the light of liberty shine on all of humanity forever, and especially on my beloved United States of America.